Hey guys, so today we're doing multiplication and we're going to be showing you 3 different strategies for it.
So up here we have our basic multiplication formula. So we have m times n equals p. So our m is our multiplier, which is the number of groups that we have. And then we're going to multiply it by our n, which is our multiplicand, which is the number of units in one group. So then when we multiply the two together, we get p, which is our product, and it is the number of units in m groups.
So we have like a little problem we're going to show you today, but before we do that, the number of units is going to equal cookies in this example, and plates are going to equal groups. So we're starting with 3 plates or 3 groups, so this is our first group, and then we're multiplying that by 5 units on each plate, or 5 cookies on each plate. So once we multiply 3 plates by 5 cookies, you end up getting 15 cookies, which would equal 3 groups with 5 cookies on each of them. So that would be our little
And they each equal each letter. So this is the m, since it's the number of groups. This is the n, since it's the number of units in this one group, which is in one plate. And then the number of units in m groups. So there are 3 groups, and then 5 units in each one equals our 15.
Okay, so this is our first strategy. It's the commutative property. And this is going to help us show that A times B is the same as B times A.
So that basically just means that whatever way you put your numbers in a multiplication problem, it's always going to equal the same thing. So whether you have A first or you have B first, if the numbers are the same, the problem is going to equal the same number.
So for our example, we have 3 times 5 is the same as 5 times 3. So we're going to be showing you this through a dot manipulative.
So for all of our properties in this video, we're going to show you through dots so that you can have the visual and see it broken down better.
So what we're going to do is, this is 3 groups of 5. So we're going to be circling 3 groups of 5 since it's 3 times 5. So 3 groups of 5 would be 1, 2, 3. And in each group you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots. And now for this one, it's 5 groups of 3. So we're going to be circling 5 groups of 3, and in each group you should be able to count 3 dots. So 1, 2, 4, 5. So in each group you can count 1, 2, 3 dots.
So each one is going to end up equaling 15. So 3 times 5 equals 15, and 5 times 3 equals 15. So the dots help us to prove that even though they're circled differently, this one is 5 groups of 3 and this one's 3 groups of 5, and they're written differently, they still both end up with 15 dots in the visual all in itself. So they're always going to equal 15 no matter which way you write them, no matter which way you circle the groups. So this is going to be our second strategy, which is our associative property. So basically this property helps us to show that A times B in the parentheses times C is the same thing as A times parentheses B times C.
So for the example that we're going to do parentheses 4 times 2 times 3 is the same as 4 times parentheses 2 times 3.
Okay, so we're also going to use dots again to just get the visuals working. So this is our one grouping we're working with to begin with. So it's going to be 4 times 2, which is 4 groups of 2. So when we're circling that, it's going to be right here. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so these are our 1, 2, 3, 4 groups with 2 in each group. So that's our parentheses. But since we're multiplying this group in the parentheses 3 times, we're going to repeat that step 3 separate times. So again, it's going to be 4 groups of 2 and 4 groups of 2. So then it's 4 groups of 2 times 3, and that's going to equal, once we count up all the dots and we do the multiplication problem, it's going to equal 24. So then if we're going to bring it over to this side and we're going to flip the parentheses, we're going to work with our parentheses first. So we're going to be working with 2 groups of 3 since it's 2 times 3. So we're going to do it right here, 2 groups with 3 in each group. That takes care of our parentheses, but then we're multiplying it 4 times. So we're going to have to repeat this drawing 4 separate times since we're multiplying that grouping by 4. So 2 groups of 3, 2 groups of 3, 2 groups of 3, and again, since we repeated it 4 times, 2 times 3, once we multiply it and count up all the dots, we're going to end up getting the same number as before, which is 24.
So basically, for the synopsis of this, just even if you move the parentheses, you're going to end up getting the same product. And like our previous one that we did, if you want to count up all these dots, they're still going to equal 24 if you want to take a deeper look.
In each equation.
So for our last strategy, we have the distributive property. So this is our little guide. So it's A times B plus C. So the A gets distributed to the B and the C, which would equal A times B plus A times C. And the distributive property allows for us to get rid of the parentheses by bringing multiplication from outside to inside of the parentheses to create no parentheses at all. So it would be 4 times 5 plus 2, and the 4 would get distributed to the 5 and to the 2. And that would equal 4 times 5 plus 4 times 2.
So basically what we're going to be doing is this whole thing can be shown, we're going to do it again with dots. So this whole thing, 4 times 5 plus 2, can be shown with groups, 4 different groups. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 2 extra ones. So this whole line is going to be one group of the 5 plus 2. So that gets control of the parentheses. So this is our 5 plus 2, which is right here. But then we're multiplying it by 4. So we're going to make that into 4 separate groups here of our 5 plus 2. And then once we add all these together again, it's going to end up giving us 28. But then once we distribute it, it's going to make it so much easier because we're finally broken down with no parentheses and we're in 2 separate equations. So that makes it easier to bring it into 1. So this is going to be the same thing as we did before with our 4 groups of 5 and our 4 groups of 2, since it's 4 times 5 and 4 times 2. So this is going to be one group of 5, our second group of 5, our third group of 5, and our fourth group of 5. So that covers the 4 times 5. And then we're going to add that to our 4 groups of 2. So that covers 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 2. And since we're adding both multiplication problems, we're going to add both groups of dots that we created. And then that's also going to equal 28. So both dots, again, in whole, equal 28 on both sides. They're both just done in completely different ways. And then this one is the more complex equation before it's broken down because of distribution to this one equation. Okay, so now we're going to do 2 little end of our unit practice problems. So since in each property we broke it down with dots and each equation separated, we are just now going to ask you for which property each of them show and what the actual final answer is of both of these equations.
Okay, so our first problem is 5 times 6 plus 3 plus 4. So we're going to distribute the 5 to the 6, the 3, and the 4. And once you distribute the 5 to all 3, your answer should be 65. And the property will be distributive.
And that's going to be, once we break it down and separate it, it's going to be 5 times 6 plus 5 times 3 plus 5 times 4.
And then for our second problem, we have 7 in parentheses, 7 times 3 times 2, and then 7 times in parentheses, 3 times 2. So our answer for this one is going to be 45, and the property is going to be associative.
And it's associative because in both equations, they both equal the same answer, but the parentheses are surrounding 2 separate numbers. So this one's going to be 7 times 3 in the parentheses, and then this one is 3 times 2, but they both equal 45.